How do the construction industry's most forward-thinking clients, consultancies and contractors get the best from digital collaboration and BIM? And how do they manage design, risks and business intelligence? It's simple. They use 3D Repo. 3D Repo is the multi-award-winning, easy-to-use, encrypted digital platform for BIM data. Through 3D Repo, multidisciplinary teams can communicate and access live BIM data through a web browser. It's a hub for open communication and coordination and allows you to facilitate design team collaboration with a full project audit trail, monitor design progress and mitigate health and safety risks, and use powerful business intelligence and data validation tools. 3D Repo has already helped its clients to track progress and make informed decisions to deliver projects on time and on budget. Plus, due to its open API, 3D Repo is the perfect platform to create true digital twins with connections to external real-time data sources. Start collaborating with 3D Repo today and create your free account at 3drepo.com. 3D Repo, facilitating collaboration for a better built environment.
Good morning, everyone. Hope you are all well. My name is Dr. Eleni Papadonikolaki, and I will be chairing this webinar today. This webinar is organized by 3D Repo, and it's a Fringe event for the Digital Construction Week. So we have 5 very interesting speakers lined up for you. First, we will hear from Tommy Williams, who will be speaking about the hazard intelligence system that improves health and safety in the construction environment. Up next is Zhao, who will be speaking about Rehearsive offers, how Rehearsive offers the ability to rehearse your construction processes ahead of time through the power of virtual reality. Then we'll hear from Matthew Osment from 3D Repo about focusing on 4D BIM and using 3D Repo as a standalone 4D tool in the cloud. Next, we will hear from Peter Kemp, GLA, about the development of a new 3D planning tool called PlanBase. And finally, from Michal Konicek from AccuCities, using 3D city models from architecture and urban planning to storytelling and public consultations. Now, we will have a Q&A after all the presentations finishes, so all our presenters will be speaking for around 10 minutes. Now, the housekeeping rules. You can use the Q&A function in the Teams platform, which is at the right-hand side of the menu bar that you have at the bottom of your Teams window. So you can ask questions there throughout the presentations addressed to different speakers. So you can say, for example, to Andrew or to Peter, and then write your question. And then all the questions will be picked up during the Q&A session, so after all the presentations have concluded. You can also use hashtag BritishIM to share on social media. Now we can, so our first speaker will be Tommy Williams. Do we have Tommy to share the slides? I can provide some background about Tommy.
Good morning.
Good morning, Tommy. So I'll give you some background about Tommy. Tommy is an award-winning product designer, engineer, and inventor, and he has developed a number of products that address real-world problems. He founded PLINX in 2016 to improve safety in hazardous environments. His wearable technology is currently being used to warn construction workers when they get too close to tagged hazards, reducing the likelihood of injury or fatality. In March 2020, PLINX adopted its helmet-mounted proximity sensor to manage social distancing, reducing the potential impact of a COVID-19 outbreak on construction sites. Very pleased to have Tommy with us. Tommy, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Eleni, and good morning, everyone. I don't really feel like I need to do an introduction now. That was great. I'm the CEO and founder of PLINX. Our product reduces the impact of injury and fatality, all contagious diseases on construction sites, and we do that through a use of effective digital management of hazards. So I'll just explain a little bit more about what that is. So our system consists of two core products, I suppose. Firstly, are PLINX tags that are physical hardware devices that are deployed around the construction environment. And the goal of using these products is to protect the employee. So they're an early warning system that reduces the risk of injury or fatality or damage to equipment. And the goal of this is to reduce project delays as a risk of health and safety issues. And secondly is a PLINX Intel, which is a software-based solution that utilizes all the data captured from the tag, and it creates meaning, protecting a robust audit trail, which protects the employer, reduces the impact of prosecution or reputation risk, and also disputed insurance claims. And the overall goal of this is to reduce operational losses through the construction process. And so what the system is, it's a connected site, and we have three unique tags that fit within this site. So first is a team tag, which is a wearable device that clips to a construction helmet, and the goal of this is to protect people by warning them of hazards around the construction environment. The second is a hazard tag that connects to a cone or edge protection on a scaffold or something like that. And it protects specific places where you want to make both operators and machine users aware of hazards. That's part of our patented technology. And then third is a machine tag, which is a small device that can be retrofitted to any machine on site or any piece of equipment that you want to alert workers of as they're getting too close to, or you want to alert the machine operator if they're getting too close to, for example, a hazardous place. So the system consists of three core elements. So firstly is a local area network. So we deploy this network. It can be set up in a number of minutes. It's dynamic and it spreads over a long range, up to 3 miles from each access point. It's expandable over longer distances just by deploying further access points or repeaters, and it's deployable deep within buildings and tunnels. And we can also deploy this from a vehicle at 12 or 24 volts. And the overall goal of this is that it provides networking where traditional networks don't go. And part of the reason for us providing this is it's a low power backbone to all of the tagged infrastructure that we're deploying. So the devices can go on throughout the working day. The second is a PLINX tags, and these are high accuracy location and proximity technology to sub 30 centimeter accuracy. We have a patented zoning technology, which means that the hazard zones can evolve as the construction environment evolves. All of our tags have omnidirectional hazard detection, so unlike some of the systems you may have seen where there is a direct degree of directionality that can cause issues with how people can be injured on sites. We provide a managed charging and a software solution, and again, all of the tags are low power like the network. We've got a real focus on data security, so we obfuscate all personal data from our system, and we work with biometric scanning or biometric access control companies to provide insight into the user operators. And then the third is the Intel platform, which I mentioned. So that's real-time or historical information, that's event information. All this can be viewed an organisation, a site or an individual level in the dashboard. We provide mapping tools such as heat maps and that kind of thing. And also we can assess, we can use drone data to assess critical points on a site. And we have a collision tracing solution, which I'll talk about in the next couple of slides. And we're really keen to do further integrations of other systems. We believe that there's value in being able to blend different technologies together. And one thing we're really interested in is the opportunity to connect 4D BIM over time, and also create a wider pool of HSC data, such as safety base. So earlier in this year, we really had to change the way that we were operating, and we realized that we had a technology that could be used to reduce the impact of coronavirus on the construction industry. I think everyone will agree with me that the impacts have been far-reaching and probably will continue for the next 12 or 18 months at least. And so we're using this technology to reduce the impact. And so with a traditional site, I'm just going to go for an example of how this technology works, and the technology can be adapted for different applications and different sites, but critically, just talking about coronavirus for the moment, if a delivery driver turned up on site and they spent a period of time, an hour and a half on site, and the site management was unable to identify who they had been in contact with, and then later it was realised that they were diagnosed with coronavirus, then the contact pool could be as much as the whole construction site or anyone that was on site at that time between those windows, assuming that you learn soon enough after the visit that the delivery driver had coronavirus. But with our system, what we're able to do is we're able to monitor the time that people spend in close proximity to one another, and then we're able to provide configurable filters so that we can define who exactly has been in contact with who and for how long. And during that time, then you can reduce the number of people that have to be isolated, preventing the need for full site closure. And so I'll give you some examples of how that data is visualized. So we have a mapping solution which allows us to provide heat maps across the site. It allows us to also pinpoint active users in real time. So you can see the dots on screen that show where people and at varying different statuses. We also have a dashboard which shows, which is a time filterable dashboard, which shows the number of users, the number of collisions, which is the contacts that we're talking about, and also the total time. So we monitor the time that people spend in proximity, not just the number of collisions, the number of unique instances of interaction. And then we have a contact tree. So again, it's filterable by date, but you can look at a selected user, and then from that selected user, you can look at the tier one, the direct interactions, and then the interactions of those people to build up a picture of exactly who you think could be at risk. And part of the point of us being in discussion with 3D Repo and talking on this webinar is about our real interest in integration with other platforms, and we see the value of having a bi-directional link between the PLINX data and BIM data, in that hazards can be identified in the design process and then filtered into tags that need to be deployed in the construction site as the site evolves, and then vice versa as data is captured on the construction environment and then is filtered back into the process so that future designs can be improved and the processes can be improved around health and safety in the planning stage. And so that's me. So I'm Tommy Williams. You can get me on LinkedIn, Twitter, and there's some contact details there. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions.
Thank you very much, Tommy. That's an excellent presentation and great time management. So for those who have questions for Tommy, please use the Q&A panel on the right-hand side of your Teams window. Now we are moving on to our next speaker, Andrew Zhao, who is the head of Immersive at Mott MacDonald. So Andrew, if you could please start preparing your slides, and I will share some information to learn more about Andrew. Now, Andrew is the product lead for Rehearsive at Mott MacDonald Digital Ventures, which is a tool for immersive digital rehearsals. He joined Mott MacDonald 7 years ago as a civil engineer, and Andrew has shifted through engineering and technical roles to focus on extracting value from immersive technologies. Andrew, the floor is yours.
Great, thanks very much, Eleni. So that was a great introduction, and I guess so, and also a great introduction to Rehearsive. For those of you who don't know what Rehearsive is, it is our product within Mott MacDonald Digital Ventures, which is the digital arm of Mott MacDonald, to deliver, as you said, digital rehearsals across the whole range of things around the product, around the infrastructure lifecycle. And I normally introduce this by just playing our trailer video, which will take up a little bit of time, but I'll let that speak for itself. So Rehearsive was built out of a need or an opportunity that was seen on major projects from a few years ago, like Thames Tideway, where this value proposition was kind of built up around digital rehearsal. The challenges being that in construction, we don't have the freedom to fail fast in the same way that we do that you do in the tech world, and that we only get the chance to do the job right once. So what we're doing on Tideway 3 or 4 years ago was building bespoke demonstrators to show how you could use virtual reality on a wide variety of things to reduce that risk. But at the time, those things cost tens of thousands of pounds to set up one individual scenario, after which point you could only use it on that one particular application in that one area. And then the value is kind of lost over time. So what we've been doing is looking at all the different ways that you can apply these kinds of technologies, and what we're trying to do as well is push the fact that immersive technologies, not just virtual reality, but it's also real-time technologies, and in future augmented reality and all of the stuff that you can do on site with that technology. Is not just confined to engagement and consultation, but also around design validation, around concept design, and also around training, not just in the context of building something for the operator, but also real-time training and site safety briefings and things like that. And so everything that you saw in our trailer video, all of those things are basically self-serve today. So you get access to multiplayer, you get access to all of the tools that you've seen, and the way we've been building it is that you go from your BIM model into Rehearsive as quickly as possible, and with little input from our back-end team, because the whole idea of trying to disrupt that model from Thames Tideway a few years ago was really to make the whole thing self-serve, to go from your model into your environment with updates as quickly as possible. And that's really where this integration with 3D Repo has come in over the last few months. So through our partnership with 3D Repo, what we've been doing so far, or previously, is looking at how basically Rehearsive can either deal with your files either locally or synced through BIM 360 or SharePoint, but that still has its disadvantages and challenges. So what we've been doing recently is building this integration into 3D Repo, so you can bring your existing models and projects that are in 3D Repo and interface with them with all of the features that we've got within Rehearsive. And what we've done as of, I think, the latest build. I think we went live with this. The first iteration about a month ago is that you can now bring your models that are already within 3D Repo into Rehearsive, or if you have Rehearsive models and you want to bring them into the 3D Repo environment, you can bring those into 3D Repo, and we can link those things up as well. And we use that all through 3D Repo's API. So at the moment, that is purely the models. So the models will be stored. We can pull all the model data through from 3D Repo. But what we're also doing is, if you looked at our features list and some of those things, there's a lot of other kind of similarities between what we're doing and what 3D Repo can store in the back end, including issues and comments and scheduling and potentially custom objects as well, which we're working on implementing. So to give you a bit of a flavor as to what Rehearsive can do for you today, so to go through a couple of worked examples, we've got kind of two examples. I'm not sure if we'll go through both of them in the time we've got left, but they're kind of two very different takes on both data and also interface. So the first one is an example from I'll skip on to the next one because it's a bit bigger. So this is a bridge replacement scheme that MacDonald was carrying out in Dominica, and this is some of the work that we've been doing around building up traffic management plans and kind of laying out temporary works, not at the moment for design validation, but more as a bit of a demonstrator as to what this technology can do to help with engagement with contractors and with local government. And so this is from a drone scan. This is all in desktop mode, so this isn't using VR at all here. I don't think we've tested putting these drone scans into 3D Repo, but they are just model files in the same way that you would bring other model files into 3D Repo. So it should work. There's no reason it wouldn't. But what we're doing here is showing our prototyping features. So we give you a series of inbuilt both operational and site objects, and you have the ability to bring in your own custom objects into here as well to augment that set of objects. We've since then brought in a few more features so this is from first person mode, which makes the whole placing objects a little bit more challenging, but we've changed it so that now you can place it from our orbit mode. So instead of having to fly around and place things, you can do it all from kind of a top-down view. I'll skip on to the next application. So this is looking at a very different end of that, looking around design acceptance, looking at a building and the challenges of using and really leveraging the 3D data that we used in digital design or digital delivery these days, to look at working in confined spaces, to look at engagement and acceptance from either a contractor or a mechanical subcontractor in this case. So in this case, this isn't what we would actually do, because we're about to go into a confined or into a false ceiling. But what we're demonstrating is this is from a Revit model that's been pulled into Rehearsive that we're interfacing in with VR. And in this context, what we're doing with Rehearsive is showcasing a few more of our VR tools, which are more than just being able to fly around and understand space, but also to be able to hold things in your hands, to be able to understand how those things fit together, how your own hands and arms and things fit together. So in this context, because the floor to ceiling height is about a meter, I'm crawling around on my hands and knees in order to empathize with with the operator who would be in this space, but you could bring the operator into that environment. You can hold that meeting ahead of time before having to send someone to site, because sending people to site these days is a bit more of a luxury for designers than it was previously. And the whole point of this is to not just communicate from your design into 3D to the other people, but also then to capture that feedback as quickly as possible, using as a native a process as possible. So what we're doing here is using redline markup in VR to be able to capture all of that. I think we're running out of time, so just very quickly then, the big thing, the big headline figure is that we're going for trying to catch and correct construction operational risks. So the thing that we heard from Tideway was 15% of capital cost goes towards risk from construction operational risk. So there's lots of other reasons why you want to use these things, to increase your acceptance rate, and also to collaborate remotely when we can't travel to site at the moment. But that one in the middle is the big figure that we're trying to go for. So I'll next steps, that's fine. So I'll leave any questions till the end.
Thank you very much, Andrew, for talking us through Rehearsive and the endless opportunities. So you can post the audience. You can post your questions on the Q&A session. And I'll go ahead and introduce our next speaker, Matthew Osment. So Matthew is head of digital twins and product manager at 3D Repo. He was previously a customer of 3D Repo, and he has been consulting in the construction industry in various forms over the last 5 years, working predominantly with main contractors, focusing on innovation and efficiency in planning and commercial activities, with a focus on building information modeling. Matt joined 3D Repo team earlier this year. Matt, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Eleni. Thank you very much. Okay, so jumping onto my presentation. Unfortunately, because I can't do video, I'm just going to put a quick picture here from our last building information modelling, so you can imagine me gesticulating as much as this while I'm giving my presentation. So a quick overview of 3D Repo before I jump in and talk about some of the new things we've been doing behind the scenes. I want to quickly go over the 3D Repo feature set. So we take input from a wide range of sources, often expensive tools. We put those into the cloud, and then we offer up a range of tools to allow people to interact with those models in an affordable platform that can be used by everyone on site. And then we also offer the opportunity to access all the data within that cloud via our APIs, which allow you to build either your own custom solutions or tie into existing solutions which have API access. So at 3D Repo, our initial focus has been on design information and allowing BIM teams to collaborate on optimizing their design management workflows. That information can then be shared easily with the rest of the construction team, but the rest of the construction team often have a different set of requirements. They need to see information that reflects where they are today and where they will be tomorrow. This allows them to understand if they're on target for completion, who to pay and how much, and what health and safety considerations need to be taken into account. And obviously this is far more important now with all the COVID related instances of people not being able to access site quite as easily as they could. So how do we do that sort of thing today? We've got these sort of complex Gantt charts which require you to jump about back and forth to see what tasks and activities are happening at any one time. We've got these other kind of Gantt charts that are kind of wide and long so that you have to scroll around and it can be quite hard to figure out where your dependencies, where your successes are and things like that. And then we've got a line of balance chart, which is absolutely fantastic for analytics, but really hard for a layman to understand. And I'm sure everyone listening is saying, yes, we've solved this, it's 4D, and it is 4D. But up until now, 4D has been missing something, and that is the 3D Repo special source. So by allowing every member of the construction process to open up 4D simulation simply by clicking a hyperlink, we can disperse that information much easier. And then by soliciting feedback inside the 4D model, we add significant value by removing time delays in communication and the cognitive load of understanding the program and understanding people's comments around the program. So I just want to run through the founding principles of 3D Repo quickly, just to keep this in mind while I go through the demo. So up until now, up until 3D Repo, BIM software is considered complex, We put things in knowledge silos, and interoperability is very hard. And we want to increase data accessibility and understand that every project is different and that one workflow won't suit every one of our customers or every project even that they have. So I'm quickly going to run into a demo of 3D Repo. So this is a 3D Repo that everyone knows. And then on the left here, I'm going to go into the Sequences tab, which is brand new in the next release of 3D Repo. So this will be coming out in about 2 to 3 weeks. And what this does, sorry, let me just hit play that, is allow you to scrub through a 4D simulation of the 3D model. And because you're doing that inside the 3D Repo workplace, you're getting all of the benefits of 3D Repo alongside that. Sorry, I just realized I skipped to the wrong slide there. 1 second. So I'm just going to jump forward a little bit. So we can see our 4D simulation playing and all the tasks and activities coming up on the left-hand side. And because it's in 3D Repo, it's fully interactive. We can click any one of those activities and see all the details associated with it. And not only that, we can go to that activity panel and we can start to search through the list of activities and jump straight towards an activity that already exists in our program. By searching through it. And then we can skip to the planned start date of that actual activity. So we're not just a video, we're a fully interactive environment where people can play about with these 4D models. And then what's great about that is once you've analysed this 4D model and you identify something, let's say in this case it's a health and safety task that I want to highlight in Safety Base, I could itemize, okay, does this edge at the point of concrete pour have suitable edge protection? So I can raise that in 3D Repo. And then because you're getting all of the goodness of 3D Repo included in this 4D program, you're also getting the immediate commenting. We can raise issues, we can use groups to identify which elements are which, and we can save views and share those with hyperlinks. So here I'm just going to raise this safety-based risk and then see. So as soon as I save that, that's now available to the rest of the team on 3D Repo, and people can come in, and as you'll see here, someone is going to just leave a comment with an answer straight away. So we're really using the 3D Repo toolset to maximize the usefulness of the 4D model. So what happens when we've got all of those time-based issues and risks inside 3D Repo is that now when I go back and I scrub through my 4D simulation, rather than having static issues and risks there for the permanent life cycle of the project, they will come and go as they are relevant. So as I zip through this 4D simulation quickly, you'll see pins start to show and hide alongside. Sorry, that video is not quite working, so I'm going to skip to the end here. So what does that allow us to do? I want to split this up into 2 sections. I want to show how we can plan collaboratively. So we can tag health and safety risks, which you saw me doing there. We can highlight logistics concerns with the logistics strategy. We could tag issues for constructability issues that we think, okay, well, that can't be done before that. We can look at supply chain strategies and work package allocations, and we can review multiple different construction sequences. And then we move on to building collaboratively, which again, we can still apply the same health and safety risks, perhaps integrating with tools like PLINX that Tommy showed earlier. We can help to enable look-ahead planning in a more interactive way. We can do an out-of-the-window comparison. So you're sitting in your site office, you look out the window, does the model match what I'm looking at? If not, I'm going to leave an issue. We can do site inductions. So especially now remotely, we can provide someone with a URL that allows them to see the playback of the project and see key areas associated with it. And we can also identify constructability concerns live whilst we're doing the construction process. So that's everything that I'm going to talk about. We're going to do a more in-depth presentation on the 4D aspects of 3D Repo when we're closer to launch, so keep an eye out on LinkedIn for that. But in the meantime, catch me up on LinkedIn if you want to. I'm always posting interesting things there. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Matthew. Thank you very much for the presentation. Great stuff. So for those of you who have questions to Matthew, please use the Q&A section and we will address everything during the Q&A session at the last 10 minutes. So now we're moving on to our next speaker, Peter Kemp. Is Peter with us? Yes. So Peter, while you are preparing your slides, I will introduce you to our audience. So Peter is Head of Change and Delivery Planning at the Greater London Authority. Peter is Head of Change and Delivery, and he's an experienced town planner and planning lawyer, having worked on major projects both inside and outside London. Most recently, before he joined GLA, he was involved in managing infrastructure funding through the Community Infrastructure Levy and S106 agreements for the opportunity areas of West London. Among other things, the objectives of Peter's current role are to transform how development data can drive change in the planning industry. Peter, the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you. Can I just check you can see my slides?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Sorry, I've just had so many moments in the last week that it's let me down. So I thought I'd take a slightly more philosophical approach. I want to talk about a project that we've done with 3D Repo, but I want to take you on a little bit of a journey, more because the people in this conversation aren't town planners. So I thought that might kind of give you a bit of context, but probably more importantly, because I want to try and lure you all into a space to think about how the technology that you've demonstrated today is absolutely stonking, can be incorporated into the monster that is the planning system. The planning system we operate at the moment, although broadly the same as it was first created in 1948, operates under legislation that existed since 1990, July 1990 to be precise. And as you can imagine, technology has moved on. Sadly, the planning system barely has. But why are the GLA pushing the concept of technology in the planning system? Well, we've kind of got 4 key objectives that we're trying to deliver. I'm not going to spend too long on this, but they kind of tie a lot of the things that we do together. So first of all, we're really interested in how technology can enable us to manage our business processes, and you'll see a lot of projects in the plan tech space around business process. Secondly, we feel that technology has got a massive role to play in digital engagement with residents, certainly now, and the project that we've been doing with 3D Repo was very much focused at this. Thirdly, we want to get the planning system better at monitoring the outcomes, because at the end of the day, this is the first step in the process for a lot of the things that all of you are involved in. But to date, we don't actually use the planning system effectively to work out what's changing and monitor what really happens as we go through it. And then finally, and most importantly, it's about delivery, and this is where we really want to engage. There's lots of projects happening in this space. The London Plan is really pushing it. Many of you may have heard of the government's white paper that's been criticised, and it's not my space to tell you what the mayor's about to say about it, but I think you can guess. And more importantly, there's a lot of smaller projects that have been looking really kind of finitely about this business process piece, but the GLA's projects have to be a little bit more strategic in approach. I'm sure you've probably all seen this, but I wanted to spend 2 seconds on it, because we don't even have a lot of data in the planning system at the moment. Our objective is to get at some point over the next year to a place where we're starting to talk much more about knowledge and insight, which arguably we've kind of pretended to be at. But at the moment, we don't really have much data. We do believe that by getting to a place where we use the planning system to produce data, we can actually get to a point where we can stop the conspiracy theories as well. I just wanted to talk about one other project that I wanted to land very loudly before we talk about the plan-based project. We are due to be launching our flagship project on the 14th of November, which for the first time is a data flow of planning data from applicants through to the outside world, enabling us to do a case-by-case analysis of development proposals, not at a point that are technologically as clever as many of the things that you guys are talking about. But at the moment in the planning system, we don't even have a way to tell us how much floor space is being created, or in practice, how many residential units are being created or in the pipeline at any time to enable us to analyse really where the blockages are to delivery. I just thought I'd show you kind of a couple of graphics to show you the reality of this. The project, in essence, just puts a few more questions on a planning application form and changes a number of planning applications. Historically, we've been monitoring particular data about particular types of applications, and you can kind of see the puttering along data. So we started the monitoring. The data goes back to 2000, but it's actually 2004 we started the monitoring. And we were only monitoring roughly 8,000 to 10,000 applications a year. I have got half of the London boroughs online with our data feed already. And you can see that we, for last year, have already monitored 50,000 applications. Now, that's not the attribute data, but that's the ability to monitor them. So you can see instantly with this live data feed, we're going to have a whole load more insight. Most importantly, this will be open data. So you can go in and pick it off, have a look at it, unpick it, find ways to use it. For some of you, it will be essentially marketing opportunities. For many of you, you can use it just to monitor what's really happening in the development industry. So at the bottom graph here, we've got a graph of really the impact of the planning application throughput for one of the boroughs as a result of COVID. And you can see that they kind of had a minor tail off, but actually they've more than bounced back. So we're really in an interesting space for getting this data flow to happen. We're also publishing all of the spatial data that relates to it, so eastings and northings and polygons, so you can play to your heart's content. The second piece, and I'm guessing Matt will be wanting me to upsell more than anything, is the work that we've been doing with 3D Repo as a result of the Civic Innovation Challenge. We set a challenge, or should I say the mayor set the challenge of how do you democratise the planning system using technology? And this was really aimed at understanding some really difficult questions about how residents engage with the planning system. So 3D Repo won the opportunity to partner with us to have a go at doing this and built a product called PlanBase. This was really intriguing to us because it actually has enabled us to answer some questions and realize there are many questions more that we don't know the answer to. Of course, in the world of 3D Repo, it's an open source piece of software, and if anyone wants to have a play with it, I'm sure Matt will be more than happy to hold your hand and show you where we've got to and build this up into an even more exciting product. So where were we really trying to get to? And the questions we were kind of going into were, do residents understand planning applications? And partnering with 3D Repo, the 3D visualizations help systems to understand. But most importantly, does that then get us to a better outcome? I think the project that we worked through, although we haven't managed to get it onto a live consultation yet, but that's still our ambition, is certainly got us to answer the questions of, do residents understand planning applications? And I think we can generally say it's a mixed position. Does 3D visualization enable them to? Well, actually, yes, it has enabled residents to understand better a planning proposal. And then we need to think about the business process side that operates behind that. The better outcome is the bit that we've still got to test. So I've just taken a couple of screen grabs because I couldn't get the video to work in PlanBase because I'm not as clever as Matt and everyone else. So I couldn't get the video to run on my presentation slide. So Matt, I will ask you to teach me how to do that at some point. But basically, we built a product that would enable people to be taken on a tour of a site, and this was just one particular site, and ask key questions about it. So that's great because it could be an individual planning application for a building, but similarly, it could be a development a strategic policy document, and that's what we were looking at here. And so residents could be taken on a tour of the current proposals out of consultation and asked really what was important to them. We had some really key learnings from this. I think our first learning is that the planning industry has got a long way to go to embrace stuff like this, and we're going to have to do it fast. Our second learning was that residents were on the whole ready to go on this journey. Thirdly, that the planning authorities rather than private industry should be taking the lead on this, and that is a real indictment to me to get my finger out to take the lead. And then finally, the bit of feedback that we had from resident testing was that they really were keen to see how it kind of fitted together with their take on the city. So these good oversights and overviews, these fly-throughs were all well and good, but they actually wanted to have a look at it from the street. So there's some really interesting learning there. I think rather than going into the next bit of the presentation, I'll stop it there, but we've got a clear plan for what we're doing next. And no doubt other people will have other ideas of where we should be heading, and we're really open to listen to it.
Thank you very much, Peter, for your philosophical approach. These are important things that can engage our communities. Now we are moving on to our final speaker for this day, which is Michal Konicek. So Michal, while you're preparing your presentation, I will introduce you to our audience. So Michal is director of AccuCities. He has over 11 years of experience with remote sensing, 3D modeling and development of 3D city models. Serving mainly architects, city planners and developers, Michal has also worked on 3D models used in storytelling, TV, B-movies and interactive public consultations. Michal, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much, Eleni. Thank you for the introduction. So I'm Michal Konicek, and I usually take credit for what this company does. It's AccuCities, and we create 3D models of cities. Our library now includes London, Birmingham, Bristol, and Cardiff. And we also work in Ireland on a 3D model of Dublin. But we also worked on over 1,400 small and medium-sized 3D models usually used for planning. So what I thought for today's presentation, I would just take you through some of the other uses than what were already mentioned here today. And we thought that we would go to storytelling and public consultations, but then I thought we could go a little bit further and see how the 3D models are used for planning better working cities, overall better working cities. So the traditional use of 3D city models was in architecture and planning. I think most of us are from this industry. With the future skyline, we can allow our customers to even see into the future. So the 3D models are not part of the planning submitted documents right now as a standard. So what we do, we collect them from planning authorities, we remodel them into 3D and put them into our 3D model on a slider, which they can appear depending on the completion date. They are used for daylight and sunlight studies and overshadowing studies, so this is a good example of that. Pedestrian wind comfort modeling. This shot is from a study by SimScale. This is now a requirement of by City of London for planning. Area of potential visibility. So you can see the purple proposed structure in the middle, and the yellow map is sort of on the fly area of potential visibility, so where we will be able to see that structure from. Because of the various high restrictions in London, for example, the viewing corridor, the protected views, the maximum building heights around St. Paul's, create restrictions as of how high a building could go. So the 3D models are widely used to create these maximum building envelopes that architects then can work within. Obviously, marketing and CGI are big users of our 3D models, especially for off-plan, but also to simulate views from the windows, roofs, and how they will change over time as the city grows around. Visual arts, video games, and virtual productions. I mean, I think I'm not alone who spent hundreds of happy hours playing Call of Duty London. This is now used more and more through the as a users of our 3D models. Documentaries and storytelling. This is a shot from Deutsche Welle, short documentary on their YouTube channel Planet A, which we worked on just a few weeks ago. Telecoms and 5G networks, both design and running of the networks. Because of the 5G networks need a direct line of sight, we can very well model the networks and also predict where the new shadows will be happening with the new construction, and also to see and to both predict it and also to overcome it before it becomes a problem. Public consultations. So this was storyboards for Hemel Hempstead station by WWP. This is good 2 years old. They moved into obviously interactive public consultations. This is a shot from interactive public consultation by British Land. And obviously the stuff that we worked with 3D Repo was the plan-based public consultation platform, where we supply the context model. And I think actually that here we struck the right between the interactivity and the freedom of use of the 3D models, but to be able to guide, especially the people who know less about 3D and how to navigate it, through a series of points where they can comment on or react. Now, machine learning systems are one of the newest, but this year was the third biggest customers for our models. And these are the systems where, not us, obviously, I would love to be that clever, but people much cleverer than I am, are using our 3D models in combination with our other data sets, in this case with Google Street View images, to teach computers how to recognize cities. So for machine learning systems, most of the people think that it's all about the algorithms and basically the clever stuff. The algorithms are needed, of course, but feeding computers data that they can learn from is much bigger part of the job. So this is what researchers from I forgot which university now, from an American university, are working on, and they are doing a big progress especially when compared to previous systems. So this is a very new but very fast-growing area of using 3D city models. And from the more practical perspective, obviously connecting cities to Internet of Things, sensors, which will probably give us advantages stemming from these uses in very near future. So a smart grid with localized predictive capabilities, better traffic deliveries management, obviously pollution management. But this can be seen as both good and bad. The good news is with the emerging evolution of 3D city models, where we are starting to do a detailed 3D mapping of underground infrastructure. These will result in better planned roadworks, and I think we can all agree that that's what really matters, and is the best use of 3D models we can see. Thank you very much. Please do get in touch with me on any of these networks or directly at AccuCities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michal, for the interesting presentation. Now let's have a look at the Q&A. I know that our panelists have kindly started answering some of the questions, so I will be publishing and dismissing them. And in the meantime, if you have new questions, you can still use the chat to ask them. So our first question was about PLINX and whether it integrates with 3D Repo. So from Matthew, we've learned that both platforms have APIs available for use, exposing the data from PLINX and allowing safety-based risks to be created in 3D Repo. Using an integration platform such as Microsoft Logic Apps, MuleSoft or Dell Boomi, our clients can create integrations which suit their workflow without any coding knowledge. So I'll proceed to next question. So we had a question from Ken addressed to Andrew from Mott MacDonald about Rehearsive and what it's based on. So we've learned that it's mostly built on Unity. Now we have a question, can we check critical path of the project in 3D Repo? So I think we have an answer from Peter Kemp about watching the GLA website over the next week. So it would be great if you could share more information with us on that. Now we have a question. It's addressed to Michal. So does AccuCities prepare 3D model of cities as digital twins? If you could.
Well, yes, thank you, Eleni. So we prepare what we call 3D canvases for digital twins applications. So we don't see digital twins as an overbearing application. We want to be targeting the digital twin to the industry or to the user, and it's supposed to be, giving us predictability and that. So we are leaving it to our customers. Avison Young created their Dublin digital twin for planning, and for example, Ansty Horn is using the 3D model of London in a much more digital twin kind of way than others, but we usually leave it to our customers.
Thank you very much for this, Michal. So we have a question about Gantt charts again. Can we integrate probably Gantt charts in 3D Repo? So Matthew has answered that. If you could explain more about this, Matthew, that'd be great.
Yep, sure. So at the moment we focus predominantly on getting the 4D in. So we use a synchro to 3D Repo process to grab that 4D, and we do show the activities. But because of the complexities of the Gantt chart, that's kind of a development further down the road. But if we get people asking, the way that 3D Repo is developed is based on continuous improvement. So if we get clients that want something and we get enough of them and we hear a big enough voice, then we put it into the platform.
Thank you very much. And then we have also another question. I think again it's addressed to you. Does 4D report, or perhaps that's 3D Repo, or that's a new name for you to consider, import Primavera schedule baseline file? So I think this is kind of related to the previous one, so that's why I wanted to hear about this as well.
Yeah, so that's another example of where we are with this first release and then where we're going to be in subsequent releases. So because there's about 100 different ways this functionality could grow, we're really looking for that client feedback to kind of help us guide where we develop the product.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other questions? Because we are running towards the end of our time for this webinar. So I think I would like to make like a summary from what we've heard today. So we heard first from Tommy Williams from PLINX about the helmet use and how it can be used for different training scenarios, but also for COVID-19 scenarios, especially with physical distancing. So I think it was very interesting ideas about how we can make construction sites safer. Then we heard from Zhao from MacDonald about the endless possibilities of Rehearsive, especially for training. So I'd like to say, yeah, that this is very important function and how we can essentially train our people on site to understand risks and the nature of the work. So it was very interesting stuff. Then we heard from Matthew Osment from 3D Repo, which is all about overcoming silos, especially in building information modeling and avoiding the vendor lock-in. So it's great to see new product developments in that space. Then we heard from Peter Kemp from the Greater London Authority, who had a more philosophical approach, and he looked at the greater scale. So it's interesting to see how virtual and 3D models can be used from planners as well, not only construction and architects, and especially digital engagement. It's very important to engage with residents and communities, and it's good to hear that they are ready, and we have to do more from our side in terms of the technology and the opportunities for them. And lastly, we heard from Michal Konicek from AccuCities about this emerging and very growing area of 3D models of cities. So it's going towards integrating also data sets and technologies, and looks at interactivity with users. So very interesting stuff there as well. We still have one question. It's addressed to Matthew. Can costing and risk be analyzed using 3D Repo? I think, Matthew, you can have a chat about that.
Yeah, so not directly inside 3D Repo, although, again, something we could look at doing in the platform. But because 3D Repo has 100, I think at last count, 175 API endpoints, we can integrate with things like Power BI or other reporting services to extract all of the data associated with the models. So that includes the 4D schedule if you've got one, but also any metadata, and pull that into Power BI and do all sorts of analysis in there. Alternatively, you can push it into Airtable or SharePoint or wherever you want to do any analytics, and then you can push that data back into 3D Repo afterwards to display it to the wider audience.
Thank you very much. I think this answers also the next question about updating tasks. So yeah, from my side, I want to thank you all, the panelists and the participants and the people behind the organization of this webinar. I think it has been very informative for everyone involved. And it's exciting to learn all of these new developments. Now, I'm not sure if the presenters, they intend to share the presentations, but I think that we will hear about that shortly. So also the recordings will be available to all the attendees later. So thank you very much. And I'd like to close this webinar now, and hope you have a good day.